Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eye On Sullivan. We've got a great show set up for you today. That's a little bit of my Ed Sullivan. We got a really big show here today.
That's what I thought.
Before we get started, though, Thanksgiving is behind us. Christmas is ahead of us. And I want to welcome, got a guest today, but we'll welcome first my co-host, the chairman, Robert Doherty.
Thank you, Mike. How was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was terrific. Only a real diehard Packer fan could appreciate that 300-0 drubbing of the team. Actually, the team from South Florida never made it to Wisconsin, so they had some uniforms that did make it. The players got lost, the luggage didn't, so they got a high school team from Green Bay, Wisconsin dressed up, and it made for must-see TV if you're a Packer fan.
My son is a Packer fan, and he enjoyed it.
Well, some of your sons are Dolphin fans and some are Packers fans, so it's set up the lines.
Yeah.
And then today we've got a very special guest we're going to talk about a number of issues with. The chairman of Combined Energy Services, who has also purchased Holiday Mountain ski area, and he is working diligently to return that hill to the great facility that so many of our kids grew up at. Mike Taylor, welcome.
All right, Mike, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
So before we get started, again, we're not all about politics, but over the Thanksgiving weekend on Sunday, President Biden, after absolutely confirming over and over again that nobody is above the law and he would not pardon his son, decides on Sunday evening, before everybody is ready to go back to work, the tryptophan is pretty much wearing through everybody, he, maybe except him, and he decides that it's time to pardon his son. But not only does he pardon his son, but he gives him a 10-year window.
I think it's 10 years and 11 months.
Correct. And it actually was set up in such a way that he had until midnight yesterday to go on whatever federal crime spree he wanted free. It kind of made for an interesting Cyber Monday.
Well, to be fair, he was kind of on a federal crime spree for the last 12 years anyway. So
there is that.
I mean, he was going on Air Force Two with his father to China and to the Ukraine and other places. So he was already, in the family business.
Well, he certainly was, and I raised that today. That's a federal issue. There are certainly outlets that people can learn more about that from, but here's an individual that presents himself as Honest Joe from Scranton when he's actually from Delaware, and that nobody's above the law. He says all the things that people want to say here during campaign season, and then as soon as the campaign is in the rearview mirror, the truth comes out.
Well, I mean, Mike, in most elections, that's what you see,
Right.
So, like in our county, in Sullivan County, Mike, feel free to jump in. In the problem we have in our county is that people run for office with no intention of governing. Right? Their whole thing is let me get elected. Okay, they get elected, and then they don't read a scrap of paper for 2 or 4 years after that. They have no idea what's going on. They show up to meetings, don't understand the issue, and then just their visceral gut reaction to whatever the topic is, they give without researching the issue.
So the objective is get elected, and then when they're in office, the objective is get reelected.
That's pretty much the plan.
All right. Well, all right, we don't want to spend any more time on those issues because we're very fortunate today to have one of the busiest and most successful business people in the county here today, Mike Taylor. He and his family built CES into a very successful business, but more important than that, they've never lost sight of community. They're very active in the community. His wife has been very active in the community, and specifically at the ski hill, and that's something that's near and dear to my heart because all three of my boys literally grew up at the ski hill and grew up in the ski patrol shack and grew up in the ambulances riding from the ski patrol shack. So, and if you haven't been out to Holiday Mountain, it's a spectacular facility. So Holiday Mountain ski area was owned and operated by the town of Thompson years ago. And then they sold to the Pasante family, who also owns the Villa Roma. They operated it, did a nice job for a number of years. The place had fallen a little bit into disrepair, and our guest today, Mike Taylor, came along to give back to the community, because I have no doubt that it was not, at least initially, a for-profit motive with the amount of money that it costs to run a facility like that. And the Taylor family has taken it over. And Mike, we want to thank you for what you've done. And why don't you bring us up to speed on what's happening at the mountain now and what exciting changes we have for the coming year?
Sure, Mike. Well, hey, thanks again for having me. So Holiday Mountain, as you said, is a very important part of our community. I grew up skiing there. My wife, my kids, my mother, my grandparents, it's just part of us. And it was over the years we saw it falling into disrepair. And the town of Thompson sold it private in 2000. I was all for that. I was actually on the town of Thompson Parks and Recreation Commission at the time. 9-member board, oversaw the ski area. And we were losing money. We were running like a municipality. And truthfully, it was a burden on the taxpayers that we just had to get rid of. And I was all for it. Villa Roma bought it. The problem was in 2000, they sold in 2000. 2003, they had a large flood down through the valley. That was really the beginning of the end, it seemed like. Things were going well, wiped out the original lodge, the chalet that was there. At that point, they had to scramble quickly and build a new maintenance facility, and they built the new lodge, which we deemed the South Lodge, over towards that Roman Candle ski area on higher ground. But you have to change with the times. They put in a fun park, miniature golf, batting cages, go-karts, things like that, and they abandoned the whole, what was called the number one area, Mike. I don't know if you remember the bowl.
I
New
sure
Year's
do.
Eve, that whole area. So they abandoned it, focused on skiing on the other side of the property. But over time, you have to keep evolving, and you have to change with the times of what the skiers want. And I think it was a point when the bad weather, we had warmer winters, and you have to put down snow fast, and just didn't have the capital point. It started getting away from them. So the mountain started falling into disrepair. But they truly wanted to fall in the hands of a ski area developer. Truthfully, speaking to Craig Passante over the years, he did not want to sell to housing developers, and they were the only interested buyers. I was trying to facilitate a few different companies and individuals to look at buying it, and it was too far in disrepair. They just would not pick up on the concept, knowing what you had to put in it to bring it back. So last year, he said to me, Mike, I'm done. I have no choice. There's no buyers. Housing developers had a good run. And that's when I got talking to my friends up at Plattekill Ski Area. Good friends of mine own that. And kind of looked at it and said, okay, we can make this work. And Holiday Mountain's got some, when you look at it, truthfully, we have 158 acres of great terrain. It's really diverse. We've got a river for snowmaking water, which is truly a godsend in the ski industry. We're easy to get to. We're on State Route 17. We have that chairlift, which hasn't run in 20 years, but you can see it from 17. Phenomenal advertising. But a lot of the magic is we are 85 miles from 20 million people. So as you guys know how many people come up to the Catskills up here constantly, it's just we've lost that winter skiing crowd. Back, you were growing up, we had Davos Ski Area in Woodridge, and Grossinger's, Concord, Kutcher's. At one time, the Pines. I think somebody told me there were 15 ski areas in Sullivan County 50 years ago. But so we're down to one. But we got it back on its feet. Truthfully, it was never my lifelong dream to own it. But somebody had to do it. And I think there's a great opportunity, a lot of community support. So far, so good. Breaking this into phases, I don't know what parts we cover. But
Sure.
So, Mike, last year, we kind of looked at the mountain. We bought it on May 1st, closed on it. We had to be open by Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 6-7 months to try to figure out what we're doing, get the infrastructure back up to shape, and make snow and be open. So it was quite a challenge because, truthfully, none of us on my team have ever made snow, never run a chairlift. I had no idea what the components were, never drove a snowcat, figured it would be easy. Boy, we got our butts kicked, and we learned a lot. So last year we ended up replacing the snowmaking and a lot of the lights on 3 trails. On the right side of the mountain, we call that the south side, and we built a huge snow tubing area over by our north area, the North Lodge. So the snow tubing, we moved a lot of material for a run-out area, built 12 lanes of snow tubing with snow making on it and lights, worked out really well, brought a whole different group of people to Holiday Mountain to enjoy it, bought a conveyor lift for that. So it's not the old days like when we were kids, we would go sleigh riding in the woods, you had to hike up the hill. Sure. This is for lazy people. We hop on the conveyor belt, hop on a tube, it's groomed, it's phenomenal. Last year, we also brought back the Turkey Trot chairlift. It's about 2,800 feet long. Great chairlift, but unfortunately, it was built in 1968. So we had to bring it up to the latest standards for code, kind of a big project. Closed 5 years. You had to bring it up to 2022 standards. Wow. Had to have it tested, rebuilt, got it going, reopened, 3 trails on that side of the mountain, and made some snow over there on the old system. So we went from 3 hills to 5 hills, 5 trails last year, plus snow tubing. This year, we're going into phase 2, we call it. We've actually we added a 4th pump. Last year, we put 3 new snowmaking water pumps in and 1 air compressor. Last year, I think we put 13 fan guns in. We put 40 stick guns on the mountain. This year, we called phase 2. We put a 4th snowmaking water pump in. So we got tremendous water pumping capacity. Our goal really, guys, is we want to be able to cover those sections in 40 hours. So if we're going to cover the 3 trails on one side, we want to be able to have the whole mountain done within 4 or 5 days of some consistently cold weather. This year we put another 23 tower fan guns, they're called, on Turkey Trot to really be able to get that hill open quickly. Bought a used quad chairlift, a 4-seater. Came from Virginia, but we had the whole thing rebuilt, soup to nuts. Rebuilt it, galvanized it, new drive terminals. It's basically a new lift, but we can buy it for about a third of brand new. Mixed in with that, we added another 110 stick guns across the mountain. So this year we ran over 6 miles of snowmaking water and air piping. Ran fiber optic cable everywhere for cameras and race timing. Big part of what we're doing, guys, is really getting kids on skis. And the high school ski racing is really important. Sullivan County has really put out great skiers forever. It seems like we've lost a generation of it. Since the Pines closed, Big Vanilla, Davos closed, the Holiday Mountain started falling into disrepair, the school program started evaporating, and that's our real big goal. Holiday Mountain, truthfully, is a gift to this area that we have such a cool amenity here to get kids out of their house, get them off social media, doing something, recreating, and doing a sport you can do your whole life. I don't know, Rob, if you ski, but...
Hey, I went to college in New Hampshire.
There you go.
So when I was in college... you got a season pass to Mount Wachusett for $25.
Great place.
You'd go there and get 10 runs in on a Tuesday afternoon.
Phenomenal.
And then go back to the library.
Well, we're hoping to bring it back, and we're trying to get the school programs going. Liberty School has a good program already. Town of Rockland has kids. Town of Thompson has a program, but we're trying to bring it back into the schools where they can get the buses after school and get kids out recreating. That's a big part of my daughter Drew's at the mountain. That's part of her job is really to try to get the school programs going, get kids recreating.
It provides opportunities for kids. My son, Carl, had his first ski race before he turned 3. The ski boots were about up to his knees, and the goggles were huge. And, but he went on to go to states 5 times. Should have gone 6, but he decided to do a backflip in his junior year and in the sophomore year and broke his leg. But with his mother being the coach, that didn't sit well at home. But you mentioned that number 1 chair, and I would scratch my head regularly because I remember being a little kid, 8, 9 years old, and coming up Route 17 and seeing the skiers getting off that lift. And what better advertisement? Now, you've got the Snowcat up there now, so at least people know that's a ski area.
Sure. Make it look like we're alive a little bit. Put some lights out there. We actually removed the base terminal, and we tied that off and just let it sit up there so you can see it from the highway.
Yeah.
But that's going to be phase 3. We're going to reopen those trails on that side of the mountain. And that should bring us, we're hoping, another 7 trails we're proposing and interconnected to. We're going to cut a trail. If anybody skied in the old days, you had to go across this huge flat area.
Right.
We're actually cutting in trails so you can ski both directions. So that'll be phase 3, but I got to get through with these first 2 phases here, and we're wrapping up. Right now, we're going to be setting our base terminal and our chairlift tomorrow, hopefully, if all goes well. And our snowmaking is just about finished. We're doing a lot more lights this season. We've added 2 new trails. I don't know if you guys have seen that on social media.
Mm-hmm.
One is it's a nice green trail. It's called.
I follow you.
I appreciate it, Rob. One's called Mambo Night. So if anybody from the area knows that Mambo music had a big part of the Catskills, the Borscht Belt era.
Sure.
A lot of these, the Jewish influx in the area was really tied to Mambo music in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And the last place that had, the Raleigh Hotel, had Mambo Night.
I attended.
Okay, most of us, we don't want to say too much if we attended. It was pretty wild back then.
Well,
But,
what happened at the Raleigh stays at the Raleigh.
That's very true. Very true. And then, so that's a nice green trail. It connects both sides of the mountain from that Turkey Trot chair over. And then we cut in a new double black diamond this year, and it's truly a very steep for advanced skiers. And most people, when they stand on it and they look down, the words they'll say are usually "Holy crap!" It's a real steep, great new terrain. So we're looking at bringing a whole broad base of people, people that ski different, whether beginners, new learning center. We have a new snow sports director.
So you have a learning center also.
We have a whole learning center with a
Wow,
conveyor.
that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so people that learn to ski, that's a big goal. It's intimidating. Who wants to get out and learn how to ski at an older age? But we have instructors, and they're actually we've hooked back up with a professional ski instructors association of America, PSIA it's called, and it's a whole learning program for our instructors to give better lessons. Rob and
Wow.
so, but we're come a long way. We put a ton of snowmaking in this year, more lights, more pumping capacity, another chairlift, a lot going on at Holiday Mountain.
What you've done is you've taken a place for the last 10 years where people could go and ski, and you've brought it back to being a ski area. You've got multiple terrains. You've got now more stuff for the expert skiers. We want to talk a little bit about what we're doing with the high schools. I know that you've worked with the county youth services department to get some, or the town of Thompson has to try to get some funding. And I know that the youth services department has money available for funding, and it's a county, so it should be available countywide to bring students over from all over the county to learn to ski, because when you're learning to ski, you're not learning to get hooked on drugs and alcohol and tobacco and other things that create the problems and the 61st position that we sit in healthcare rankings.
Correct.
Very true. Yeah, Mike, and that youth services money, I believe that's that federal money. It boils down into the, I don't know if it's state, I think it's federal money that boils down through,
Yep.
and they distribute out to different programs. Schools are eligible to apply for that.
Sure.
So right now, some of the townships are picking up on it for youth programs. The schools in Orange County have definitely learned to grab that money and just to simply apply. These after-school programs, I applaud the townships for doing it, but truthfully, the area, there's a lot of poverty. And we have a lot of also people that have never skied in their lives coming from different countries living here. Huge Hispanic population here. Never skied before. And if your parents don't ski, the odds of getting on skis are so much less. So if we could ever get these after-school programs going, these kids, what do they do in the afternoons when they get out of school? What is there to really do? But if we had busing to get them to Holiday Mountain, and we're happy to subsidize the cost of the tickets and rental equipment as much as we can. Schools have to buy in. They got to provide the busing and the chaperones to get these kids out there. I'm 56, almost 57 years old. I ski every weekend. I don't know how many people still play soccer or lacrosse or gymnastics up in their 50s.
That's hard.
And there's people that ski and, 70s, 80 years old. When you learn how to ski, it's wonderful. We have this great conveyance. The chairlift pulls you up the mountain, and gravity brings you down. I'm inherently lazy, Rob, and I
don't believe that.
I need gravity. I got to get down the mountain.
The funny thing is, when I was telling you about going to Mount Wachusett when I was in college, in New Hampshire, we there was older couples like in their 60s and 70s that we would see all the time there, and we would be like, you still ski, because at the time, you're a kid, you're 19 years old,
Sure.
Like, hey, and they were like, yeah, you could ski your whole life, and they were literally skiing in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and it's great for
fun.
tourism. When you look at this area in the wintertime, we have Sullivan County. Really, we're blessed. We have a lot of hotels, a lot of beds now in the county. Resorts World, Casino, the Cartwright Water Park. There's a new hotel proposed for Rock Hill. Great, that's going to work great in with Holiday Mountain perfectly. Sure. Airbnbs, a lot of inns. So we have a lot of capacity up here. A lot of weekend homes, and they're looking for things to do. Great community turnout so far with a lot of support. I'll tell you, the county IDA has been wonderful with us, very proactive. The town of Thompson, couldn't be happier. Bill Reber, the town board, the planning, everybody's been great, helping us any way we can. Everybody's behind Holiday Mountain.
So now, do you have cross-country skiing there?
Not yet, Rob. So we're talking about cross-country skiing maybe in Phase 4.
Okay.
So top of the mountain, up towards Rock Hill, it's relatively level-ish land. So Phase 4, we're hoping to possibly build another lodge. Up along 17 where our billboard is, put another building. We ran extra snowmaking capacity up to the top of the mountain this summer when we ran a 10-inch water pipe all the way to the top. And that's going to hopefully be able to branch us off. We could put a couple kilometers of cross-country skiing trails, which gets another demographic of kids on skis. So if we can get those after-school programs going, more kids out recreating, and also whether it be biathlon training, things like that. There's no cross-country skiing with snowmaking between here to Lake, or I should say New York City to Lake Placid. There's nothing. So if we can do snowmaking and groomed trails, that's the goal. We'll get more kids out there. And on the weekend, if we can take, we can get some money on the weekend, bring city people in, get up spending money, go out and have dinner and do things. That's on the agenda.
Well, that's the whole goal, right? I mean, that's what I try to accomplish when I was in office, was to create events so so that people would come, right? And if you have a mountain that, is as good as most mountains around, right? I mean, you're not driving 5 hours to New Hampshire or something like that, or Vermont. You can drive, ski, and you can actually go home the same day. But if you stay over one night, it's not a killer weekend on you.
No, we're going to have some great. We're never going to be a big ski area. We'll never be Killington, and we won't be Hunter. That's a good thing, though. We're not looking to be a big ski area. But we have decent terrain. Now, 400 feet of vertical doesn't sound like much, but we got some really fun, diverse terrain. And it's kind of cool because it's finally owned by a family of skiers.
Right.
And those places at Holiday, when you looked in the woods of the past when you were a kid, you're like, hey, boy, I'd like to ski over there. We're doing it. So we're kind of looking at every inch of that property. Where can we ski? We're going to build a terrain park eventually. A lot of kids just want to jump off features and rails. And so we're looking at doing that with a high-speed rope tow like they have in the Midwest. Let the kids just want to do that. We're going to do it. That's what we're.
I think once you get the kids hooked onto it, and then it just grows from there. The way Holiday Mountain did before, 50 years ago.
Well, it's a lifetime pursuit. So we start the children young, and they can get involved in the ski racing program. They won't all want to race all the way through high school, but they'll get exposed to that other activity. Important thing is this is an asset that the county desperately needs facilities like this where you can have good, healthy, clean family recreation. And what's critical is it's privately owned, and they employ a lot of youngsters, a lot of kids that in the winter need jobs in the concession stand, and they're helping with the lifts. And I know 3 of my kids grew up being ski instructors there. So there's lots of opportunities, and now one of them is the coach at Bel Air. So what they took in their experience at Holiday, and they moved it along. Mike, I'm familiar, of course, with the history of the high school program because my kids were there, and the frustration often was that with the limited snowmaking that was there in the past, sometimes their first time on the hill was their first meet because they had limited snowmaking and they rented the equipment so they could only make snow during certain weeks. Tell us a little bit about what you've got planned with the high schools for the competition kids, and then we'll talk about the recreation kids as well.
Sure. So we actually, last year we put fiber optic cabling over the mountain on Roman Candle, which is the steep trail on the far right.
That's the race hill.
The race hill. So we've restructured that, put in a timing shack at the bottom, better timing, better audio for the parents, big, huge timer on the outside. We also tied in with live timing that most people that race are familiar with. It's online. We put some large screens inside the lodge. So inside the lodge, you can actually see the timing live in the building. Wow. And in our bar, we brought back the bar at Holiday Mountain, and we actually have big screen TV so you can watch the races inside. So it's been a good hit. That we had some grandparents that come down, don't want to stand outside in the snow. This year, we've added the Turkey Trot. It's about a 2,800-foot-long trail. We've put about 2,400 feet of GS, giant slalom racing. It's a longer course. And we've never had that down here in the Southern Catskills.
Right.
And our kids are a little bit of a disadvantage when they go to states because they don't have the endurance of these larger mountains, kids that get to ski at Whiteface or Bel Air.
Sure.
So we've cleared what we call skiers right. It's a better pitch on this Turkey Trot run. It's got some great drops, all new timing on it. We moved the timing shack and cameras on it. So it's going to be pretty cool. After-school racing programs, it's going to come back. And I think it's planting seeds with these after-school ski programs. You get the little kids out there. Third, fourth, fifth, eighth graders, get them on skis. Eventually, as they develop, if they develop an interest in racing, hopefully we're going to see the high schools all grow. I believe most of the high schools in Sullivan County still have race teams. They were missing a lot of kids, so they merged. I think Liberty and Sullivan West might have merged.
Yep.
I think there's opportunities. As we start putting more kids on skis, we're going to build those numbers back up. And like I said, we're happy to subsidize the cost of these after-school programs for the lift ticket and the rentals. We got to get the schools to buy in, and they got to say, okay, this is important enough to get kids out recreating. So we're here for it.
So, folks, if you're thinking about the war on drugs and getting our kids healthy and getting our children into good, clean, healthy things, you need to let your schools know that we've got a great facility over at Holiday Mountain that has already yielded some great now adults who grew up at that mountain and grew up in good, clean, healthy things and had experiences statewide, racing against other people across the state. And now the Taylor family has created a situation where the mountain is even more versatile. Mike's absolutely correct. GS was kind of limited. That's giant slalom at Holiday, and these kids would go up to a mountain where it was a 2.5-minute run, and they're used to a 28-second run, and they were really at a disadvantage.
Exhausted.
Yeah, I mean they just couldn't train for that. So the facility's not open yet. We're hoping maybe by Christmas we'll be open.
We're shooting for that, Mike. And this year, once again, we're waiting for the electric company to bring us a couple transformers. We're setting our base terminal and our new chairlift. Actually, tomorrow, knock on wood, they show, and we have some state testing when we get that all done. That big splicing project of the cable, big project. But, we got about another less than 2 weeks to get it all finished, and we're looking forward to it. And a lot of construction this season. The motocross racing on that property caused such erosion damage. I can't begin to tell you guys.
I can only imagine.
And people have seen we're up there crushing rocks up by exit 108 and basically, trying to make rock for these swales and drainage that we're doing. But restoring the surface or the surfaces everywhere, big project, and stabilizing things.
It's
electrical, though. My God, if I told you guys the amount of electrical service we had to put in, and it's mind-blowing. So great contractors in Sullivan County have helped us out.
It's an attractive situation to have a use for a ski hill in the off-season, but if it directly fights with the ability to make it a quality ski area for what it is, the motocross was great. We love off-road motorcycles, but it pretty well tore up the mountain.
Very sandy soils down there, Mike. And I'm a fan of motocross, and there's great places for it, but when you're it's almost a sand pit on the whole left side of the property, or north side. So it just lost all the vegetation and created a big mess. So we're trying to restore it and get it back to where we need to go to get skiing going again. That's the goal.
So I remember, again, from my own kids' experience when you had the old lodge and they'd be in the number one area and you could sit in the lodge in the bar and watch the kids going up and down, watch them competing. What kind of activities do you have planned for? I remember there used to be a Friday night stuff for the high school kids, and then it was Tuesday night. They had the races for the alumni. What do you got coming up?
Well, so far, of course, we have all the some of these after-school programs coming back and high school racing various nights of the week. Friday nights, we actually did bring back that local motion races on Friday nights. Racing under the lights, I think we might have called it.
Yep, locomotion.
And it was $20, and you got to do 2 timed runs with gates, and you get a beer afterwards, or a soda if you're not a beer drinker. Great response. I'll tell you, we had a lot of people came out, and they got their skis back out, and a lot of community support last year. We had a couple hundred people would show up every Friday night and just have a good time. We have food there, a great menu, and a full bar, so it became a great community place again on a Friday night. Get out of the house and do something fun. So, and hey, you don't have to be a great ski racer. They're just having a good time.
No, blast. And that's not the point.
But just part of it, we're looking on doing all sorts of programs. We're having inquiries. We're in Section 9 up here, I believe,
Section
for
9,
high school. Section 1 is coming up this year.
That's Rockland County. That's Rockland and Westchester.
Rockland, Westchester.
So
There's a lot of
they're
skiers.
looking forward to coming up, and it's just more people to discover how great this county is and what we have to offer here at Holiday. So we're hoping those people, their families, come and take a look and go, well, okay, it's no longer a mess. Let's buy a season pass, and we'll see you on Saturday. And hopefully that brings more people to the county.
And that's just an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
For most of them. I mean, even if you go all the way out to like Somers, I mean, it's still only an hour and 10 minutes.
Sure.
It's pretty simple.
So, Mike, if we've got a family in the county that hears this or drives past Holiday Mountain and sees your signage out there and your billboard, and they're interested, how do they go about getting a season pass? Who do they contact?
Well, everything's online now, Mike, and they can go to the mountain themselves. But truthfully, everything can be done right online. Daily tickets, tubing tickets, season passes, lockers, reserving rental equipment ahead of time. It's all easy to do online. Just simply Google Holiday Mountain and you'll find us.
That's perfect. So that's it, folks. You want to make sure that you get out there and support our local vendors and our people that are putting their hard-earned money back into creating a facility for the community and for the county. This is certainly not likely to be what the Taylor family plans to retire on. This is not a for-profit venture with the amount of money that they're putting into the mountain, and they are, I guess, they're the kings of cold because they run Combined Energy Services is a local supplier of heating oil and propane, gasoline, and they're not just local. They're not just local. They're since Mike has taken over day-to-day operation of the business after his father passed. He has really built some tremendous facilities. I know he built a facility here in Ferndale. He bought a building that was in disrepair and redid that, and had to move some property out there.
Short attention span, Mike. I just keep going forward.
You just
Good work ethic.
keep moving forward. But everything that you folks build, you build first class, and it's always the properties always look nice. They're a great company to work with. We've been working with them for years and years and years. And to slip back into politics for just the last minute, what do you foresee the future of your industry with the election and a new administration coming in?
Well, Mike, I've definitely been on the forefront of the whole climate change agenda, and I get it if there's a lot of ways to look at it, but the truth is, if electric energy is just not the way to do everything, especially when they're looking at alternatives, where everything's going to be solar and wind, and it's physically impossible. So when you look at the administration coming in, no matter how you look at it, I think we're all kind of anticipating the price of energy is going to drop. We're hoping when you have crude oil at, $65, $68 a barrel, if we can get that back down in the 40s, it's going to be very difficult. New York State tries to keep pushing a forced electric agenda and outlawing fossil fuels. So I don't know if people realize it, but starting in 2030, New York State has this thing called the Climate Leadership, a Community Leadership Climate Protection Act, and it's enacted starting 2026, 1 year and a few weeks from now. In new construction, you're not allowed to have any fossil fuels. Everything's forced electric. So they talk about taking your gas stove. They did it. They're taking it away. They're going to force electric. By 2030, you're not going to be allowed to replace your existing gas or oil equipment in your home. So in 2030, January 1st, when your oil burner goes dead and you're going, I expect to get a new furnace for $5,000. Sorry, today's the day that you have to put in 15 heat pumps in your big house. And does your 80 amp service cover it? It will not do it.
It will not do it. So that's the issue, right? So they're pushing this agenda, and we're not prepared for it. Like you just mentioned, the electrical service that you had to bring to the mountain, was probably quite pricey, and NYSEG has openly said to the planner in this county and to other places, you guys got to slow building down. We don't have enough electricity for you.
Well, Rob, I mean, it's beyond that. The state of New York is outlawing fossil fuel electric generation. So by 2040, they want to be 70% on alternative energy in the state to make electricity. Physically impossible. So you're telling people to use more electric. So we just said 2026, you can't new construction. 2030, you can't replacing your home. 2035 is the date that they're outlawing any new internal combustion engines in the state. So we have got 10 years until, wait, get my math right? 10 years, yeah. 2035. That's the year they're going to require us all to have electric vehicles. And that's your lawnmower, your snowmobile, everything. At that point, you will not be able to register a new vehicle in the state unless it's electric. So, Rob, we're going to increase our electric consumption. We're going to decrease our fossil fuel electric generation. This is physically impossible. But the worst part is New York State has lost population. We're down about 1.3 million people in the last 3 years. People are moving out of New York State, and it's becoming unaffordable, and we just keep raising taxes, and it's creating we're going to subsidize programs through this alternative energy. Next year, they're proposing carbon taxes on all fossil fuels. That's laying in the hands of the DEC, and that's putting a tax on gasoline, diesel, heating oil, propane, natural gas.
So I went to go buy, I'm sure you buy lots of trucks in your business. I went to go buy a truck, a couple of weeks ago, and the prices went up significantly. And I asked the guy, why are the prices so much higher? He says, well, we're required for every 8 vehicles that we sell, one of them has to be electric. But they can't sell it.
Well, I don't know if it's a requirement. New York State is going to be requiring that January 1st.
Yeah, so
physically impossible.
So no one wants it.
No.
So they have to buy it. It just sits there, and then they spread the cost of the 8 vehicles over the 7 vehicles. So you're paying $15,000-$20,000 more for a truck because no one wants the electric vehicle.
Well, it's next month. So there's 6 states in the country that are following California. Next month, what they're going to do in New York State is for every 10 vehicles, every heavy-duty or medium-duty truck sold in New York State, they're going to require them to sell 1 electric vehicle. Yeah. Problem is, the chassis I buy for my propane and heating oil business, they're 33,000-pound trucks. Right now, they cost about $90,000 for the chassis. When you're looking at an electric chassis, it's $320,000. So it's over 3 times the cost, and it adds 13,000 pounds of weight to the payload. I can't haul as much fuel.
Correct.
So it's self-defeating. So New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, California, we've all enacted this. It's going to start in a month. So this is all sitting on Governor Hochul's desk. What we're going to do here, I don't know. But the problem, when you look at the bigger picture, people leaving New York State due to taxation, the cost of living, as people are fleeing, as the price of energy drops, it's going to make New York less competitive, truthfully. More people are going to leave because we keep raising taxes and losing people, losing businesses. If you have a pizza business, how are you going to start running things on electric ovens, electric cars? People are going to, okay, time to go to Pennsylvania next door.
Right.
So what they just did in the city, all those old wood fire and coal fire ovens, they made you have to get a permit for it, put in all these scrubbers, and a slice of pizza in those places is now like $7 a slice.
Well, Rob, look at the school buses. They're forcing New York State schools to put electric buses in. Has anybody realized what that costs? I think the average electric diesel bus today is like $130,000. I think I remember Nick Vallone talking about.
Yeah.
The new ones are over $280,000 for a school
And
bus.
you know how much they weigh?
It's terrible. And the distance in the winter when you're running heat in them, that they can't go on these trips. But the problem is no resale value. They don't have electrical infrastructure to charge them. And they're killing school budgets. You're going to make them spend almost triple for a school bus. And now New York State's forcing that. But wildly enough, with that rule about January 1st, how about they've exempted the municipalities from having to buy electric vehicles?
Oh, that's
So
good.
the plows for the towns and the garbage trucks, whatever it is, they don't have to use electric, but they're going to force electric on everybody else. So New York State, and if Governor Hochul ever gets her hands on this podcast, this is truly suicide. We're going to be not competitive with other states, and you're going to put people in the poorhouse. Slow down on this agenda. We all want clean energy. Hey, hydrogen's coming. There are things in the future, but you just can't force electric as the rest of the country is waking up going, this isn't going to work.
But the fact of the matter is it's a worldwide agenda. And when you talk about it, we still have China has, an emerging economy status. And they're allowed to skirt most of the rules. India's in the same boat. Meanwhile, their populations outweigh our populations 3, 4, 5 to 1. And they're still skirting all the rules. And our, environmental gases have gone down.
Tremendously.
Correct. But theirs is skyrocketing, but no one's saying a word to them. That's why this last election, I mean, we were talking about, Hunter before, they were taking $10, $15 million from the Chinese government and letting them do whatever they want. Trump's not going to do that. I mean, he's going to say, hey, you got to stop this. And then there's going to be, a fight at some point.
Well, when you bring this back to the kitchen table, we all saw what happened in the last 4 years with inflation and what that did to the price of groceries, and part of that was getting the groceries to market. We talk about fuel, with New York decreasing the amount of fuel that we can use, the cost of people like the Taylors acquiring it is going to go up. We saw politicians bad-mouthing the grocery stores. It wasn't the grocery store's fault that the prices were going up. It was so much more expensive to get it to market. So even if on the federal level we bring the price of energy down, the price of delivering it to your house is going to skyrocket, which is going to make New York less competitive. It's going to make New York less desirable. And as people leave, so does New York's influence across the country in terms of, as the population drops, so do our number of congressmen drops. Senators, of course, is 2, but congressmen will drop.
Well, we lost one in the last census.
We did. We did.
Probably lose another 2 in the next census.
We
Mike,
did.
you look at New York State, we have a burgeoning $239 billion state budget. And within 2 years, we're going to have a $14.3 billion shortfall. I don't think people are realizing that people that are making money are leaving, whether they're moving to Florida, Colorado, Tennessee. The big income producers, big income taxpayers are leaving. So, but with that, when you look at a $239 billion budget, the state of Florida has 2 million more people than the state of New York. Their budget is less than half of New York. So we have to really wake up. This is a crash course. We're decreasing population. We're backfilling people that aren't paying as much income tax. I get it. People say your population's not dropping because there's people that are leaving. We're backfilling as well. And they're not paying the income tax. So we can't push businesses out. You can't demonize them. We have to keep Wall Street vibrant, and you have to help the upstate communities. And by wiping out energy, you're going to lose more jobs. New York State, with the hostile regulations against business owners in general, being in the anti-business climate, taxation, but then forcing electricity on everybody, taking away fossil fuels, it's more nails in the coffin. So it's an unaffordable state. Let's just hope that the governor right now has a lot of bills on her desk. I'm hoping she goes in the right direction. I believe a lot of election changes across the state. And if you look at how many people in the state started voting Republican, I think it's an eye-opener in these rural areas, even New York City, when you have Donald Trump who came within 10 points in deep blue New York.
Yeah.
They're going to say, okay, it's time to wake up. Everybody doesn't have a far-left agenda. We're common-sense thinkers. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, independent, conservative. Nobody wants to overpay. And we want cleaner air. We think that the climate change, great, but we don't want to overpay to heat our house, drive our vehicles, eat a slice of pizza. The radical energy agenda is what I'm usually fighting about. And hopefully New York gets straightened out and keep us competitive with all these other states.
Well, that's very important. And folks, again, this is not coming from a profit-driven individual who owns an oil company. This is coming from an individual who has raised his family here, that has made a reinvestment in the community here, and understands the arithmetic of it just does not work. When they tell you you have to replace your oil burner, and I've learned that my oil burner rarely goes out in July. It generally goes out in December or January when you fire it up. And you want to go a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so with a generator because you're not going to change over to electric that fast. It's important. And folks, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback to the podcast about any future topics that you'd like us to take up or guests that you'd like us to have. And you can reach out for us at eyeonsullivan@gmail.com. You can check us out on our YouTube station. And again, I want to thank Mike Taylor for taking the time out of his incredibly busy schedule to come and fill us in on what's happening at Holiday Mountain. Rob, it's always a pleasure spending an hour with you to go over issues that are important to Sullivan County, regardless of your political persuasion, regardless of who you vote for. That's not our concern. Our concern is the elections are over. We all have to live here. We all have to raise our families here. And we all have a lot of common issues that we want to make Sullivan County an affordable destination and location to raise your family and come for a vacation. So on behalf of Mike Taylor and Rob Doherty, this is Mike McGuire thanking you for joining us on Eye On Sullivan. Check us out each week on Spotify. And you got a message for us? Let us know what that is, what your thoughts are. It is eyeonsullivan@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us, folks.